Welcome to ReikiCafe Radio. I'm your host, Christine Renee, and I am joined with one of our ReikiCafe admins. We'll have Marta joining with us today, and she's the coolest because not only has she graduated from our Shamanic Reiki trainings, that she is all into herbal concoctions, and I love her videos, and she's just so fun to share this ReikiCafe space with. I want to welcome to the show, Marta. Will you please fill in the gaps? Like, if you want our audience to know a little bit more about what your jive is right now, like, will you give us a little introduction, if you will, and then we'll get started with sharing your Reiki journey and your story, because those are such fun topics.
Yeah, they are fun topics. I love this. I am a shamanic Reiki practitioner and an herbalist, and I've been studying herbalism since the 80s when I got sick. But now, because it's shamanic Reiki, I've realized that herbalism goes so much deeper. It's plant spirits and vibrational medicine. And you could take a flower and take my barrage essence if I need to feel brave that day. So what I'm doing now is, besides Reiki, I make herbal products that are Reiki imbued. I have flower essences, oils, incense, herbs, tinctures that I make with love. And I realize that the plants aren't here for us to use, but to work with them. And learning how to work with them and respect them as their own being is really where I'm at now. And it's just a place I never thought I'd be. And it's so wonderful.
I love that. I love that. Well, I would love to kind of rewind a little bit and going, well, where did Reiki come into the scene for you? How did you get involved with your Reiki training or being first introduced to Reiki? Where did the journey start?
Wow. Well, like most everybody says, Reiki found me. My son was in high school. He's in college now. My son was in high school and he was getting to that age where he didn't need me anymore. So I was kind of free to start being who I wanted to be. And I kind of began a little bit of a spiritual awakening. I was talking to my brother, excuse me, and we were talking about when we were kids. He said, you were always so pretending to be a fairy, and you collected rocks, and you made magic potions. And where is that Marta? She's so like boring now, like just mom doing your job. Because the magical Marta's gone. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Magical Marta is gone. And I thought I was being magical Marta, singing and doing my thing. But I thought, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take this opportunity in time that I'm not needed so much anymore and find myself again. So I started buying crystals, collecting rocks, and the potions, love potions I made in third grade with rainwater and flowers and crayon scrapings. I started making, like anointing oils for friends. I have a friend who has an altar to Artemis. So I said, I can make you, a mugwort oil that you can use. And so I would do that. And I realized I love to take pictures. So I got myself some old used cameras and started taking photos again. And then I started hearing the word Reiki everywhere. Just like it would pop up, Reiki, Reiki. I'd turn on YouTube and there was Reiki. I'm like, I don't know what Reiki is, but it's intriguing. So I looked into Reiki a little bit. I thought, okay, wow, I've always been a healer. Every job I've had, from dental hygienist to personal trainer to wellness coach, has been healing. This is something I could do till I'm 100. Yay. So I think it was about 2 days after I learned what Reiki was, I searched San Antonio for a Reiki teacher, and I was signed up to take a Reiki 1 class. And then the rest is
history. Right? I think it's always so interesting how Reiki kind of sneaks its way into people's perceptions.
Yes.
And especially at that time in your life, like I always go back and look at the chakras and when they're developing. And it's so often that when women hit their crown chakra and they transition into repeating root, that is when women have their spiritual awakening. And instead of having a midlife crisis, like many men, women have a spiritual awakening. And I love that, like, it kind of hit around that time and you started diving in to find your truth essence and really like awakening that inner child again. I love all of that.
Yeah, it was really a magical time. I loved it. And getting my first attunement, I was giddy. Like I was giggling and I was laughing, and the the Reiki master's like, "I've never had a client like you before." She goes, "You just are so happy." And I'm like, "And you're glowing too. I can see your aura. My intuition's waking up." And I was just thrilled. She goes, "Are you going to come do Reiki too?" I'm like, "Yes, I'll be back." It was really magical. And she wanted to do the Reiki 2 the next weekend, but I wanted to go do the 21 day that I'd heard of, the real
Yeah.
way, very much into that. And that was a good time. Um, I mean, I'm a clean eater anyway, but super clean eating, getting outside and getting in touch with nature. And then my Reiki 2. And then, of course, I think a year later after I did Reiki 2, I went and got the master. Then I did some Holy Fire Reiki, and that was good. I like that, a little extra oomph, but I really found when I found you and the Shamanic Reiki program, that's what blew me away, because I was doing Reiki, and I've said this before. Okay, so traditional Reiki is all about Reiki flows, and it's soft and it's calm and it's beautiful and everybody's healing. But I was experiencing some different things when I was giving Reiki. And we've talked about this.
I'm like,
I
tell
was
me more about that. Cause that's always, I don't think you're alone in that of going, it's all flowing, it's all good. And why am I feeling this heaviness that I need to do something
yes.
with it?
Why am I seeing a shadow at the end of the room? And why am I seeing glowing colors around, the client? And at this time I was doing in-person Reiki. I'm doing all online now, but I would hold my hands over, let's say, the heart chakra, and there'd be nothing. And all of a sudden it would start to glow green. But the third eye chakra wasn't. So I was mixing colors, and I was kind of having fun with the colors. Like, if am I supposed to be doing this? I don't know. So I had thought, okay, there has to be something more. So again, I started researching, found the shamanic Reiki, and realized that, okay, traditional Reiki is wonderful, but this kind of intuitive, work with your gut, work with your guides, see what's happening Reiki is just even more beautiful and more healing. I feel great after I give a Reiki session. It feels like I've
So
healed
good.
myself.
Yes,
Yes. And I know,
absolutely.
yeah. So I don't understand. People say Reiki drained me. It never drains me. I always feel up. So yeah, the shamanic Reiki not only opened up my idea of what Reiki session should be, but it also opened up this whole other world of working with plants because of the animism
Yes.
aspect.
Yes. So, in your own words, what is animism to you?
Animism to me is that everything has a soul or a spirit or the breath of the creator in it.
Yeah.
So everything should be respected.
Yes. Yeah. It's like everything has sentience. And once we
Yes.
start respecting and honoring everything as if they have sentience, man, the world, the way you interact with the world just shifts. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now because it's like the way you walk on the earth is different, and the way you respect the plants and the trees and the garden space, and all of it comes alive. And then you're not just the crazy person who talks to your house plants because like you can listen back to them.
I know. Well, Reiki, what it's done is really opened up my sense of gratitude.
Yeah.
You know, I practice it so much different. There were times I would take my son out when he was a toddler and say, "Honey, look at the sunset. Say thank you for the sunset." Or a deer, look at deer. Say thank you that we saw the deer. But I never felt it deep. But now there's such a connection
Yeah.
with me and the earth and the universe that when I say thank you to anything that makes me smile, I can feel the thank you back.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Like it really does feel like you're communicating on a spiritual, energetic level. It's not just, oh, let me just teach this really cool, piece to my child to like respect nature. It's like, no, 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 feel nature, feel that it's communicating with you and interacting with you and knowing that we're all divinely connected and there's no hierarchy or I'm better than you because I'm a human.
Right. I know. And okay, there was a fly in my kitchen and I had to swat it, but I always said, I'm so
Right?
sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah, things.
Yeah.
But I always felt a little guilt and I always say I'm sorry. And my husband and son, they laugh at me and go, you say sorry to flies. I'm like, just came in doing fly things,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to cook dinner.
We learned how to catch flies with our hands in our house. Like we cup them and then like bring them outside like that.
Yeah, I do that with all the moths and stuff like
Yeah.
that. My husband like, there's a moth in here and or a bee, and I'm like, tell me, come get the bee. Bees are
Right.
precious.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like that's becoming more okay to be our weird, authentic selves that have respect for all life. Like it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've totally learned to embrace my slightly off center, very curious, kind of wannabe magical person. And I
Yes.
have to attribute Reiki to that because it opened up my mind to everything that I knew was there but didn't understand how to reach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about as the journey went on. Like where were the big aha moments or shifts in your practice?
The big shifts in my practice, and it evolves with every client, is at first I set the timer, the 3-minute timer bell on the music. So I have my hands
Yeah.
in every position for 3 minutes. And I was I feel sorry for some of my first clients because I was so concerned about where my hands were positioned for 3 minutes and then moving on, and I'm still trying to envision the Reiki coming through my head and to my hands and stuff, but it was still like, okay, it's only been 2.5 minutes. I can't move my hands, even though I'd see some like, you know, aura around the feet or something there. I'd wanted to go. And I said, no, but I'm only at the shoulders,
Right.
that
Yeah.
it's
Very
so sad.
traditional practice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was taught. When I start teaching, I'm gonna definitely be giving, like, practice your hand positions, know where they are, but, let it flow.
Let it flow.
So
Trust your intuition.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now I generally when I start somewhere, I start at the feet or I start at the root,
Yeah.
and I kinda even with the distance Reiki, you can still get that energy, and I can still see that energy and see where I need to go. I
Yeah.
also used to be very silent and not talk during my sessions. And now it's almost like, ah, it's like I channel little meditations for the client.
Mm.
You
Yes.
know, like, breathe through your root. I'm working your root now. Do you feel that? Do you see the colors? And then we go on. So not only the client knows what I'm doing, but it just helps guide me too, because then I see where it comes up next.
Yes.
You know?
And then you don't have to try to remember everything, right? Like if things
Right.
come up, then I'm like, I can just let go of the story and keep moving along. I find that really unique in Reiki practices. And I think it's really um from the shamanic Reiki perspective, like we've given permission to ourselves to utilize our intuition and utilize our spiritual gifts and let it be a story and let it be a journey and let it be a unfolding instead of like it's supposed to look and be this way and there's still that bit of Reiki is always flowing, it's the foundation of course,
Yes.
and how do we release, like how do we let go of the things in our body, of the tension? It's so much easier when you're being prompted to take a deep breath, know that the healing energy here is here to support you and we're just letting go of anything heavy right now. Like I when I do a sessions these days and it ends up being completely silent, as the practitioner gets like, that was weird. that, that was just so weird for me to do it quiet because it's so foreign at this point. Like, I love bringing in guided visualizations and meditations that's going to help the client experience the session to a new level. And the only way you get to that comfort level is by practicing it. And we do so much practice in the shamanic journeys and our programs with Shamanic Reiki. And now it's being rebranded to Soul Rising. Like, you get to have that experience of like, what does my voice sound like? What do I see? And when is it okay to say that I see it? And how does that look? Right?
Yeah, it was a huge step for me. Because of some perceived not self-confidence, like I wasn't like nobody wanted to hear me talk during a session. But then it just started happening, and I did go back to the Shamanic Reiki program where we practiced on each other, and it was hard for me to get to the vocal part.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost comfortable to be silent, but then I got more comfortable with it because it seemed to be more healing for me and the client when there was talk. And I incorporate crystals too, and I'll bring in a crystal, say I'm using this crystal right now because I feel I need to have it here XYZ, or I have my selenite wand and I have my crystal point that metaphorically I can dig the grout out of a chakra. And it just it I love it, and it works. And I just recently got a drum, and
Yay.
I haven't used it during a session yet, but I use it with myself, and it's self-conscious about using the drum, but I love it.
Well, and it's all vibrational healing. Like, our words can be vibrational healing. Our drum can be vibrational healing. And I think that when we can open to it, and it's very much like there is that piece of like, for our listeners who are listening, like, you were trained to use your voice in a certain way. It wasn't that you just got Reiki and started chit-chatting in your sessions.
Right.
Like, I think there's a big difference there of like learning how to shamanic journey and learning how sessions can unfold by seeing things and watching the chords or the intrusive objects or whatever it is reveal themselves, and learning how to communicate those opportunities of healing for a client, of asking things like, what do you think this is connected with? Who is this attached to? Are you ready to let it go? Like, just having those prompts of letting the client interact in their own healing can be very empowering. And that's where, as a teacher, as a facilitator of this education, like really helping our students find their voice and trusting their intuition and letting the session be led with the support of our power animals and our spirit guides and maybe the angels and whoever else wants to show up. Like, it can be really a profound experience for clients to witness and be interactive in participating in their healing. So it's not just done to them.
Right. So you said that sometimes you have silent sessions still. Is that just because you're called like
Someone will ask me that way, like, can I just have a traditional Reiki session? I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
whatever?
why would I do that? Not that, like, I do think that Reiki sessions can be very powerful. And if that's your jam, like, awesome, go for it. Like, if that's what you enjoy. At this same time, like, I'm at a point in my practice where keeping my mouth shut when I see something, I know something, like, it's on a soul level. Like, if I have an angel like get in my face,
Right.
how am I not going to communicate that? Like, I feel like our spiritual gifts can be utilized, right? There's a reason why I see things, hear things, feel things, and I'm not going to attach to it. Like, I think there's a worry, especially in the traditional Reiki, that we're attaching to the story. And my perspective is that if we can walk the journey, if we can walk the story, we can then let it go. If we understand, why am I holding on to all this tension in my belly? And where is that coming from? If I can identify it, it's so much easier to let it go. Right.
Mhm.
So if I'm noticing that a client is hard as a rock abdomen and that they're complaining of digestive issues, and then I get in there and I'm like, wow, there's all kinds of worms or what rocks or heavy energy or whatever it might be, I can give them a guided visualization of like, we're going to dig out all of those rocks. We're going to lift them out and then set them on the ground. And we're going to keep lifting them out and setting them on the ground. So now they're interacting with the heaviness that they're attached to in their belly, in their abdomen. Right. And so we're giving them a proactive way to get involved in their healing. And I'm able to visually help them process whatever is coming up emotionally for them. Right. And
Right.
so I think there's definitely of like, place your hands and just let go and dismiss everything that could possibly show up. And my challenge to that is, what if we did it different? What if we laid our hands and trusted our spiritual gifts, trusted our knowingness, trusted what showed up in the process of letting it go, so that we're not attached, so that by the end of the session, it's just a story that happened in the past and we're not attached to it anymore. And then your client feels better and they feel empowered because they were interactive in it. Right. So I
Mhm.
think that there's definitely two sides. Like I get the Buddhist Reiki side and I study it. I'm heavily involved. It
Yes,
seems
you
like
are.
at this point and understanding that perspective. And I get it if you grew up in a Eastern household where letting it go and Buddhist meditation were part of your normal practice from day one, right? For the Westerners out there, I can't just say, go meditate that on like just being at peace. And they have any tangible concept of what that means. Like
Yes.
there's no way. And so I think there's a gap in how the Reiki was originally utilized for the healing practice, where we're doing Reiki as a support to our Buddhist practice, right? The Reiki was
Mhm.
there to support the Buddhist practice, right? And so we can understand that like that was the foundation 100 years ago. Like this was to help you be a better Buddhist,
Right.
right? So when we can understand, like they already had a practice of meditation, they already had an understanding of don't get attached to what comes up and we're just going to let it go, because they understand that they understand how to do it. But if we
Mhm.
come to someone who's brand new to spirituality and brand new to self-healing and brand new to understanding their physical complaints as spiritual ailments, if they're new to that concept, it's going to be really hard to jump them to just let go of that feeling. Stop thinking about your disorder or disease or your ailment. Like, stop it, be blank, meditate. Like, that's too much.
Yeah, I can imagine if somebody told me that 10 years ago. I'm like, "Well, I can't meditate. I've got a kid. My mind goes on like crazy, blah, 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 blah."
Right. So we got to
Yeah.
take the baby steps with our clients. And I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think shamanism fills in that gap for Westerners of going, validating. Yeah, no wonder your belly is so heavy. It's full of rocks. Can you feel those rocks? All those rocks represent something. It's metaphor. Okay, so what's the heaviest thing in your gut right now? I want you to reach in and pull it out. And I want you to understand, what is this heaviness? And they'll know their spiritual steps like, oh my God, that was the time when I was a child. And like I lost my grandparent and no one let me process it. I'm like, okay, we're going to process it now. We're going to grieve and we're going to let that go. And we're going to set it aside when you're done. You can take as long or as little time as you need, right? Like just having those types of prompts available fills in the gaps that for Westerners to really do the release work.
Mhm.
And I think this goes to Reiki and all of its different lineages and all of its different takes. It's not a one size fits all. And
No.
so, and I think that's honoring that piece. Like if you jive with a certain lineage and if you jive with a certain practice, that's okay. There's no quote unquote, you should do it this way. And this way is just where there needs more training and more understanding of how can you enter into the space honoring the process, opening to your spiritual gifts, and then processing with the client. And that's not going to be taught in a weekend Reiki master's training. It's not. Right?
No,
It's
no,
a process.
no, and that my weekend Reiki trainers thing was great. It was, I got the attunement and everything, but I'm a Reiki orphan. My
Yes.
master moved out of the country and she didn't keep in touch with anybody. And my Holy Fire Reiki master, I feel an orphan there, not easily reachable. So I had to do a lot of research on my own and kind of do a lot of building on my own, which was good. Um, and it wasn't until your Shamanic Reiki program, which is, of course, months long. We're still in touch like a year later.
Absolutely.
uh, it's just, it really just rounded everything out. And I did my own healing. I had root wounds,
Yes.
major root wounds I did not understand.
Yeah.
I had a challenging childhood. And I think I spent my 20s and 30s and my early 40s searching for something to make me feel whole and healed. I was a happy person. I wasn't depressed or anything, but there's issues that come up, and there's behaviors I did that I knew were prompted by, now what I've learned is my root chakra and the root wound that so many of us have. And during the shamanic program, I met my root chakra during one of the journeys, and it was amazing. And they gave me a present, which was a key. And in one of my own journeys, excuse me, allergies, I did the pull rocks out of my root, and they were like lava rocks, and I threw them into a volcano, and it was just so amazing. I'm by myself. I'm like, wee, in my brain with my inner child self, taking these rocks and throwing them to a volcano. So if that made me feel so good, I know that when I'm doing a session on somebody else, if there's so much heaviness in the root, there's a root wound there, and they need to get with their inner child and work on that. It may take more than one session, but there's so much work to be done. But I love telling a client at the end of any session, when we started, I didn't see the glow in your throat chakra, and now it's blue and illuminated. So because that's what I see. I see colors. So I like sharing that with the client, that when we started, it was this, and now it's this. Isn't that wonderful? Do you feel it? And they're like, generally, yes, I felt it right there when you were working on it. And, so that's what I love about the shamanic Reiki, with the sound and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Getting into the depth.
It can be very beautiful and very in depth. And that's why we have to tell our clients, like, don't expect that this is going to be a normal, quote unquote, normal Reiki session. I do it different. Like, I have to tell people every time, like, don't expect me to just be silent this whole time. Like, I don't offer traditional Reiki sessions. My Reiki sessions, you are allowed to laugh, cry, scream, gag, choke, need to run to the bathroom, like whatever it is, whatever emotional process that you're going through, all of it's okay. This is your time, your space. And so I've had clients literally in the middle of a session sit upright and be like, I need a journal right now. And I'm like, okay, here's pen and paper. I'm just going to give Reiki to your back while you're journaling. Like, it's all okay, because we're meeting our clients where they're at, knowing that the level of healing that they're available for is the level in which they feel safe. And so our job as practitioners is to create a very safe container to do the healing work. And that's going to look different for every single person, and honoring the process for every single person. Now, if a client came in and I started doing a guided visualization and they were like, nope, that's not it, I would be like, all right, I'm going to honor that this isn't feeling right for you. And we can take it a different direction, and we can just be silent. And that's okay if that's what you need. I think I've really literally, over the hundreds of clients I've had, I think that's happened once. Right. Generally speaking, 99% of the time.
Give me Reiki. Yeah, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun. So that's how my Reiki has evolved with my clients, from 3-minute timers and
Yep.
perfect hand positions to a free for all. Just a free for
Yeah.
all of sound and crystals and talking and spinning chakras, which is my favorite. That's kind of my specialty, is restoration and chakra spinning. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's amazing.
I
And
love chakra spinning. And, like I had one of our student graduates, she was like, well, I'm now starting to incorporate, some like the Reiki into my massage clients. But I don't really do anything from the shamanic Reiki program. Like, well, tell me what you do. She's like, well, almost every client gets a chakra analysis. And I'm like, that was like the bedrock of the program, like learning how to journey to the chakras and like feeling the chakras and chakra spinning, because they could be so powerful. She's like, well, yeah, I do that like every session. I'm like, well, then you're doing shamanic Reiki. Just because you're not titling yourself doing that doesn't mean you aren't doing that. You're doing it. She's like, well, I
yes,
guess you're right. I
that's
love
true.
it.
That's true.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I think that's the other thing. Like, people really want to, like, if they're not doing all of it, then they couldn't call themselves a shamanic practitioner. And I'm like, well, that's okay. If that title doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. And so for her, it's like she's a chakra expert and that's what resonates to her. And I'm like,
Right.
that's okay. That's totally okay. Like, we get to identify ourselves. So even if what you call yourself doesn't match what your certificate is, it's okay, because most of the people who come into our programs, they definitely have more than one certificate already behind their belts, right? And so
Right.
we get to feel into what resonates as your identifier when you go and talk to people, and know that that's okay. And as long as you're identifying, especially if it's different than a traditional Reiki session, I think that's important.
Yes. And like, there's nothing wrong with traditional Reiki, but it just doesn't seem as fun anymore. Like, it's so fun to do all the stuff and play with the colors and talk and feel into it.
Well, and I think maybe that's why I feel like shamanic Reiki really has many more female students than male students, is that it really taps into that divine feminine flow energy and just trust. Whereas
Mhm.
traditional Reiki to me feels very masculine and structured,
I can totally see that. Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
if we throw out the rule book and just say anything goes in this space as long as it's for the highest good of the clients, here's some Reiki, here's some shamanic skills, what does spirit want to co-create in this space? Well, that's a
Mhm.
very different game. And to be able to get to that point in your practice where you trust it. Like, I feel like when I show up for a session, it's like I've got my toolkit. I can pull out 20 different techniques easily,
Mhm.
but I don't know what to expect in a session. I just show up and I go into that space and I'm like, what guides are going to be present with me? Which directions want to show up? What's the energy that's being present here? And then when you do a shamanic journey through the chakras for a client, when you do that quote unquote chakra analysis, the body speaks to you, their emotions speak to you, the spirit guides and the power animals who want to help and support show up. And so then it becomes very dynamic. And if the
Mhm.
goal is whatever is for the highest good of the client, like always setting that intention, always asking for your heavy lifters to be involved, to always set the intention, and to always ask for any releases to go to the earth, I think you're doing a really great start of creating that sacred, safe container.
Yeah, that's one thing that why I think I feel so light after a Reiki session is because I feel like it's not me doing the work. I'm
Right.
the facilitator, I'm the holder, but there's many times I feel just, the ringing in my ear, or the almost the tapping of my shoulder of
Yes.
help coming in. Like, just stand back, Marta. Stand back and hold up your hands, hold up the
Yeah.
crystal. And this is something that needs a little extra help right now. So I love that. That might have scared me if I didn't have the shamanic training.
Hmm.
Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? Why is my ear burning? Why do I feel like a rush? That, how, well, for me, how I experience it, when you go over the top of a hill of a roller coaster and you start to go down and your stomach kind of goes, woo, I'll feel that sometimes. And I know that there's somebody there, and I can't always identify who it is, but I know somebody good is there. It's like, okay, step aside. It's just like letting me know. It's that tickle in my stomach. Then I love that. And that happens during meditation too.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And I think that's it. It's honoring however it shows up for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my spiritual gifts and the way they have developed and show up today is going to be different than yours. And what if we all just honored whatever it looks like for each individual, and that it's not always going to be a freaking movie screen that everyone, that's their dream.
You mean it's not like the movie Ghost?
I'm like, someone like you're talking about colors. I never see colors. Like I don't see it that way. I can't tune into color. Like color's not there, but I can sense when someone's standing in the corner and they have an angelic presence. Like I can oftentimes hear what they're telling me to do or get out of the way or whatever it is. And so it's like knowing that there's not a rule book of like, this is the way it's supposed to be for every single person, right? Like that doesn't exist. And I think it makes certain people and certain, different Reiki avenues, like it makes them nervous that we can trust at such a deep level that we're safe, we're protected, and that this work is okay.
Safe and protected is huge. Yeah. And that's excuse me, another way that Reiki has totally changed my life is the feeling of being safe and protected myself. I am, classic feeling everything, going outside and not feeling good.
Yeah.
But I've learned, yes, that a highly sensitive person, I've been told by a therapist, I'm the highly sensitive person, didn't know what that was. Now I do. But I've learned that I can make my Reiki bubble. I can set energetic boundaries. I can go out and come home and not get IBS the next day.
Yes. That's huge.
Reiki has given me the freedom to really go out and do anything and not be afraid, to be in a situation that's maybe not the best. Close my eyes, give myself some Reiki, set that energetic bubble. And yes, it may be stressful at the time, but it's not going to affect me later.
Yeah. I love it. And it's that process. Like, how do we cultivate that trust? How do we cultivate that passion for Reiki and that knowingness that you're safe, you're good, you have a support team? And I think that's very foreign to the traditional Reiki. Like the idea of like, I've got spirit guides who are rooting for me. It's not traditional Reiki, right?
No, it's a whole better thing. Like I said, I've searched so long and so hard for, every religion, Kabbalah, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Buddha, Wiccan. I went through all of them in my looking for something that was going to bring it all together for me. Now it feels like it's a really nice mixture of everything, because it is all that animistic, we are all one, the spirit is everywhere, you are safe, you just have to invite it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So bring it to present day. How is your Reiki practice today? How are you? Like, I know that animism, the plant work is such a big part of your practice. Tell us a little bit about that. And if people wanted to connect with you to purchase your products, all of the beautiful things, how would they do that?
Well, my website is newlifereiki.com, and that's the same as my Facebook and my Instagram. Full name is New Life Reiki and Botanicals, but that's really long to fit on anything. But it's New Life Reiki. You can find me. I make, like I said, I've been studying herbalism since the 80s, and I always saw in books flower essence. But to me, pre-Reiki, that made no sense. Like, how can a flower work on your vibrational energy? That's just silly. I want to know the tincture that's going to that's going to take care of my son's nauseous stomach,
Right.
which is ginger. Um, so after Reiki and through a journey, I met my ancestors, and I've come to find out through research and through my journey that we have all been healers and herbalists and the town medicine woman. And so that's where I embrace my Reiki practice. I do shows 3 or 4 times a month here where I bring my products and people are coming back and I love it. So I have flower essences, which you take the flower, you don't touch the flower, you take the flower into a crystal bowl and it soaks up the rays of the sun, and the vibrational energy of that flower goes into the water. And you preserve that water, and then you take that essence, and each flower has a different healing. For instance, if you're feeling down, you're feeling low, in my relationship with the sunflower, that would be the sunflower. The sunflower turns its face towards the sun and accepts the light. So you take like a sunflower flower essence. I learned that flower essences have been made. Well, the first person to write a book was Hildegard of Bingen back in the 11 or 1200s. She made flower essences and did crystal healing for the Pope and everybody, and then wherever the popes and monks live.
Vatican.
Yeah. Monasteries. So it's like the Aboriginal people have been doing it forever. The Druids made flower essences. So that was my first dive into spiritual herbalism. And that's what I love doing. People will contact me and they might find a flower essence on my list that works, but I will do custom for them. Like, look, I need this. And I go into a journey and I see the flowers that they need going into the bottle.
Ooh,
and then I
I
can
love that
flower essence for them and, tell them how to use it. And it's just, number one, it's a beautiful experience for me whenever I get to help somebody like that. And to see those visions and to see the flowers going in the bottle and making that and giving it to them is wonderful. Beside flower essences, I make oils from flowers, and everything I make, 90% of what I make, I grow myself. I do sometimes travel and pick up some pine in Seattle. I got some hibiscus in Costa Rica. I have to buy some of the resins and things, but I make oils with jasmine and lavender and chamomile that you put on your body, when you need to feel that feeling of what those flowers give. Or if you're a magical practitioner, use those oils on your altar or to anoint your tools or do candle magic. I love making custom oils for people. They'll call and say, hey, look, this was so cool. A local antique dealer I met at a show, she said, can you come to my store and Reiki everything? Because I feel sometimes like it's haunted. So I'm like, yeah, I would love to. Number one, because that's awesome. So I did that, cleared it out, did Reiki, but I made her a little protection oil with herbs for protection, like the vervain and the clove and sage, and an oil that whenever she got a new piece, she could just put a Reiki symbol she was Reiki practitioner, just level 1. Level 2, I think. Yeah, she was level 2. She could put a Reiki symbol with that oil in a hidden place on the antique object to kind of clear out.
Beautiful.
So that's where I am in my practice right now. Besides giving my distance Reiki, which I love, making my products every day, going in my garden and just talking to the flowers, and my office is just filled with shelves of dried flowers that I can make something with every day. And it's great.
I feel
and
like
even
you're
mundane things. I make lip gloss and tinctures too. It's like in bath salts, but it's all imbued with Reiki and done with love.
Oh, I love it. It's like, I want to do that when I grow up.
Well, that's the thing. Reiki has given me like the dream job I can do till I'm 100 years old.
Yes.
I know you're supposed to retire. That's not who I am.
Well, I think that's it. Like, people, like, they have this assumption that you need to have this life plan that you're going to like retire and like live on a beach somewhere. And I'm like, that's not it. Like if you can find your passion and you're doing it every day, you never need a vacation from your life. You never
No.
need to necessarily retire because you love what you're doing. I can see myself slowing down so I can really get connected with the earth and grow my own garden and make tinctures, for example. Like I love that.
Mhm.
My life is, I hate using the word busy, but right now it feels at capacity for what I can hold. Like because I love what I do, and I really give a lot to my students, and I love it. I love that's where I'm at. And I also remember having my earliest memories of taking herbal classes when I remember I was like 19 years old, and it was with this little old lady in a house in Portland, Oregon, and she was teaching out of her house, and it was through the community college of all things. Like she
Nice.
was very accredited, and she had written her own book and all of the stuff, but it was out her house. Why? Because her backyard had like all of the garden, all of the things. And I remember her saying at the very beginning of the class, now, just to give everyone a heads up, your life may radically change after you take this class. You may get divorced. You may take a different career path. All of these things are very possible. So don't be surprised if in a year from now, your life is completely different.
Yes. See, I wanna be
Right?
that old lady that gives herbalism classes and teaches Reiki
I can't
and
wait
does
for
all the
that.
things.
Yeah.
It's so great. And my life did change. I quit my muggle job
Mm-hmm.
to just in January because this business that Reiki has given me is growing and it's beautiful and I'm so fulfilled and so happy doing it.
Yeah.
That's one blessing that Reiki has given me
I
is that
love that.
I'm living a life I never thought I would live, and it's like perfect. Every day, it's like I live the Reiki life. I Reiki my water, shoot my dog some Reiki. It's just
Because our, Reiki Cafe's like tagline is where your Reiki dreams come true.
there you go.
So I love
It's
it.
true.
I love it. It's so beautiful. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners?
No, I think this is a great conversation. It feels so good to share how good I feel.
Yes.
That's I love doing that.
I think that is a really great reminder for everyone to just honor the things that feel good in their life, to celebrate it and keep following that path of inspiration because it will lead you to the place that you need to be. And it might not be what you are expecting in your mind. Your mind space and your heart space have different priorities for you. And if
Mhm.
we can lean into that heart space, our intuition, you're going to find the path that's going to lead you to the place of all is well and this is good. And I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I have to give to this just a thanks to you and Izzy because of you and this program, I have found this thing in my life and I'll be forever grateful. It's beautiful.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us today and walking this Reiki journey with Reiki Cafe University. It's been amazing. And I'm so glad that you continue to stick around and stay for all of the things. You can definitely find Marta in our Facebook group, Reiki Cafe Community. She oftentimes does lives there and shares all of her wonderful botanicals that she's creating. So if you need it to find her there, you can definitely do that. And know that we are here to support you. We're here to support all of the Reiki orphans or not, like if you got teachers, like it's okay to have more than one. Absolutely. I have a lot. Right. And that's okay. And so know that if you're looking for support, if you're looking to go deeper, we're here for you. We want to support you in finding that deep place of intuition, of your own spiritual gifts, and walking the life that feels good to you. So thank you so much, Marta, for joining us on the call.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.